Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Each episode, you'll dive into conversations with top entrepreneurs, visionaries, and business leaders, unlocking the secrets to building profitable relationships that drive growth and success. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, presented by Leduc Entertainment. Today we are joined by Kara Barnes, who is a facilitator, a consultant, a self-proclaimed systems nerd, and the founder of Backstage Ops. Kara, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's fun to be here.
Can we start off? Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Backstage Ops?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am based in Idaho. I'm in the Boise area, and shout out to my Pacific Northwest folks. I work with speakers and people who generate revenue from presenting either in keynote, training, facilitation formats, and we help them operationalize the back end of their business, make sure that they've got the infrastructure to support what they are trying to achieve with their speaking strategies. So it's fun to be here because a lot of what we do is requires so much partnership, and I like the tone that you all have set with leading with partnership with this podcast. So I think it will be fun to chat with you about those components today.
Absolutely. And can you tell us a little bit, how did you get started working with public speakers and motivational speakers? How did that come about?
Yeah, excellent question. So I have been working in the back end of online service-based businesses for my entire career, really. So 13 years or so since even in college, I was at a virtual assistant agency. So getting to see the back end of lots of different kinds of businesses, different industries, different business models, and ways that people were being creative to generate revenue, doing the things they loved, and really got that spark for entrepreneurship, obviously, seeing that and getting to contribute to that. So one of the patterns I saw was that people were always trying to tap into speaking, and it was not uncommon that was one of the things they would list when they were talking about their business goals. I want to be on more stages, reach more people, have a larger impact. But in particular, being on the stage was a draw for a lot of folks, and right. I saw people struggle to figure out what that looked like for them and how to do that effectively. I also saw a lot of people fail, to be honest. A lot of people who would kind of put themselves out there with their big idea, but didn't know the best way to package it or polish it, and saw them struggle to get referrals from those opportunities. So over time, I had the great fortune and opportunity to work with a couple of people who were really, really committed and said, I need to figure this speaking world out. And they tasked me while I was on their team with going and finding out more about the speaking industry and how do we get me in there and really leverage this in a way that makes sense for everything that I'm doing, so that I don't just go and do one speaking opportunity, but that feeds my ecosystem of the things I'm working on, and that turns into more referrals. So I did that in a really focused way for a couple of clients of mine. And then over time, I just found myself with a wealth of knowledge about the speaking industry, and found that I was answering questions for people left and right about how to get in there and how to build a back end of their business that could run autonomously, so they could focus on speaking and podcasting and speaking, because those things go hand in hand. So that I kind of fell into this position. And I think The reason I stayed here is because I think speaking businesses in particular have this fascinating puzzle of being people who want to have the biggest impact, but they often have some of the smallest resources of they're little bitty businesses and small, tight teams that are having to do a lot with just a little to have that impact they want to have. So I think that's a fun challenge to help people navigate.
What are some of the, can you dive a little deeper into what are some of the operational challenges that these speakers are facing? What problems are you helping them solve? What are some of the pain points that they're having? Yep.
Excellent question. So, and thanks. I know you're getting to highlight the things that I do, and I could talk about this stuff all day long. So I think, again, back to wanting to be in partnership, we really try to meet people where they're at. Our services are custom based to meet the client with the business model that they're in. We are not a one fit solution. And I think the common conversation that we're having with folks in the beginning of that partnership is, how do I get out of feast and famine? That's a big one. In the speaking space, you might have a a $20,000 keynote that you get to deliver in October, and then you may not have another gig on the calendar until February. So I see people really struggle with the feast and famine nature of speaking in that industry. And part of what we do is look at your business and its comprehensive health so that we can even that out, smooth it out, so that you are having consistent systems that allow you to chip away at that more predictable, healthier financial projections and have the income be more smoothed out in your business. That's a really big one for speakers. The other thing is getting booked. People come to us and say, "Can you just fill my calendar? Get me on calls, get me on with meeting planners. How do I get in there and get on stages?" So our approach to that is operational. We are coming in to design systems in your business, again, to continue having that be sort of a slow and steady, that you should have consistent touch points, consistent ways that you are soliciting opportunities, following up on opportunities, having those things be in a consistent, systematized format, as opposed to, I've got nothing on the calendar. I'm going to do a big hard push for a month. And then I get booked and then I fall off completely and don't get back to it again for 3 months. And then I panic again. And then I go, I see people in that up and down a lot. That's common in entrepreneurship in any business. But I think especially in speaking, having those consistent systems that give you those nudges, that's our approach to keeping things on the calendar, keeping you booked, and making sure that, again, with the smoothing out and the consistent pace of your business, that when you do get booked, you have the right infrastructure to deliver with quality and be able to show up in an organized way for your meeting planner, so that they go, wow, they were so easy to work with. And then you get the referral. So, systems are so integral to a smooth pace in your business and consistency of those referrals.
And you mentioned that this is not sort of a one size fits all approach, that this is kind of a tailored thing to each individual. So what does that discovery phase look like when you're trying to figure out what are the problems that these speakers are having and how you can fix them? How do you, I guess, approach that?
Yeah, excellent. So, I think one of the things I see people do so often in entrepreneurship, and I imagine you see this as well. I'll be curious what you think about I think it's really common that people are so eager to come in with their solution that oftentimes they don't stay in that discovery space enough. So,
right.
So we do take lots of time early on to sit with the questions and make sure that we are really clear on what your pain points really are. It's easy to get excited about a software and quickly implement and move things forward because it feels like it's going to be helpful. But if it's not actually addressing the main pain point today, then doing that investment in operations might die off. So our job first is to get really clear on not only what are your pain points today, but what is that gap between where your business is today and where you want to be. I think, especially in the speaking space, people are very focused on getting that next gig or getting that next contract. And especially in that feast and famine mentality I mentioned, that they're not always clear and strategic about why they want to speak. And if you get on stage and crush it and it goes really well and people love you and come up at you after the engagement and say, "I want to give you all my money, you were amazing," are you ready for those opportunities? Do you know what you're going to offer them and how you roll them into the next service? So we need to get people really clear on some of those things before we start designing systems or going in and implementing anything and tweaking anything, because you can waste a lot of time operationalizing and systematizing parts of your business that aren't hit on the highest ROI. So that is the partnership component for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you ever find when you go and are doing this research to figure these things out, do you ever find that you're uncovering pain points that these speakers didn't even realize that they had? Does that happen?
Yeah, it certainly does, because I think it's such a great question. I think
a bit of a loaded one. I apologize.
No, you're spot on, and that is the nature. I will say, I keep going back to partnership. I think that is the nature of partnership, is sort of understanding someone in their context fully. And it does take a while to really dig in and see, when somebody might say, "I'm struggling with lead generation," and that could mean so many things. Does that mean that you can't, your automation is broken in this system that you've already invested 100 hours in? Or does that mean that you don't know what lead generation means and you think it might be marketing, you think it might be sales, or you find a webinar? Like, it's so it's so relative in entrepreneurship. We're all making it up as we go. So there are a lot of things that get thrown out, like you should have this in your business, or this should be like that. And I do end up having to do a lot of uncovering. What does that mean to you? And then, can you share your screen and show me what does this look like when you get to that stuck point, or send me a video? Because so much of the time things are lost in translation. So yes, is the answer. We do uncover a lot. And I think operations and organization appeals to people because it is all those unsexy little like niggly hangups that slow you down, right? If you are stuck figuring out how to log back into your iCloud because you got logged out and now your calendar doesn't sync, if you're spending 45 minutes on that, you are certainly not in flow writing your book or revamping your keynote. And those projects all get pushed behind because you're deep figuring out how to be the expert on this tech component or this software. And those distractions will kill your small business. So it's an occupational hazard that I end up tech support in a lot of those spaces, but it's necessary to get us to the important pain points.
Well, and I'd like to talk a little bit more about the tech aspect of this all. How do you implement tools and softwares and things like Asana to build out these strategies? And I guess, and furthermore, looking to the future, what role do you think AI is going to play in building out these strategies? Because that's coming up quick.
Yes, it is. It sure is. I think the most important thing is to not make those decisions in a vacuum, and to not build systems or operationalize in a vacuum. And what I mean by that is, we'll take Asana as an example. Asana is a project management tool. And for people who aren't familiar with that, it is essentially intended to be a digital to-do list, right? It is where you and your team are able to all put the to-do list in the same spot so you can prioritize more effectively and you can collaborate more effectively about the things that are on the top of that list. With any tool like that, it is a human-fed tool. So if you and your team are not using that tool the same way, if you don't speak the same language, if you're off building one project in this format and another project over here, or people can't find the link because you didn't point it to the right spot, when people are not engaging the tool effectively, it dies off, and we call that an RIP Asana. That's a graveyard of tasks that you'll never look at again. So my goal is very much to pull the strategy, get really clear on the strategy, make sure you've got clarity on the systems that are going to support the goals reflected there, and then take a look at the software. Because if you want a CRM because someone told you need that, but you don't have a sense of if you need email marketing also, how you want to do your social scheduling, if you haven't thought all the way through those components of your business, implementing software is often going to end up feeling like a waste of time and money. So I think the people component is really, really important. And then to your question about AI, I think I'm a little different than a lot of folks in operations in the sense that I'm not going to be quick to automate, and I'm not going to be quick to implement AI. I will do that once the system has been simplified and clarified enough that it is a simple, direct translation over into an automated tool or an AI tool. But what people often try to do is replace strategic critical system building with automation and AI, and they're very quick to bring it in. So my advocacy and sort of my call, I suppose, my hope for the world and systems in the world of entrepreneurship is that people get really good at building simple, really dumbed down, intuitive systems that anybody on your team can go in and navigate very comfortably. And then once you have that, then look for opportunities to drive automation and AI and pull that in to speed up efficiency, so that you aren't overcomplicating your small business. I see people having to undo that mess a lot of time.
Right. Just gets too tangled and too jumbled.
Yeah.
And you've helped, I guess, countless speakers cross the 1 million in revenue mark. I mean, that's incredible. And can you talk maybe a little bit about what that looked like the first time that happened? I mean, that had to be a pretty joyous moment, right?
Yeah. I think it is very neat to see people get to a point where their revenue matches the hard work they've put in and the years of effort and the iterating and all the learning that happens, we'll say, along the way, right? And so it's very fun to see people hit a benchmark like that represents success and freedom and a certain level of business. I will say more than that, to be honest. I am lit up by seeing the way people can get more true freedom from their business, and that the financial revenue mark, I mean, huge win to be able to look at your revenue and feel like you have a really good, healthy financial situation. That's the other thing, is 1 million revenue doesn't always necessarily mean healthy financials also. So, you know, when I see people do that, I'm always also making sure, are we really looking at the health of your finances? And that's the real win, is being in a good financial place where you are profiting off your business in the ways that you want. And what I started to say is the freedom that you get from having systems in your business, like it's fun and exciting to hear that people are meeting a certain revenue goal. But to be honest, the most excitement I have felt is when people come to me after working with me for a while and say, did you know I took 2 weeks off? Because nobody else knew. My team just ran things and I was able to disappear and unplug. And I think it's the first time that some of those people have gotten to realize this idealistic picture that we all have of an entrepreneur sipping a pina colada by the beach in Cabo, that they don't even have to touch their business. And it's that first feeling of like, wow, I've been able to see the payoff of all those systems that we've built in the team that I'm now setting up for success. I think that's the biggest win that I've seen with my clients.
Now, and it's funny that you bring that up, because it kind of leads into what my next question was going to be, is how do you support the vision and support the operational systems at the same time? Is that a balancing act? Do those things conflict sometimes? What does that look like? And I guess that goes to your role as being a second in command, right?
Yes. Yeah. So part of our services are offering fractional business manager placements. So if your business is at a point where you really need someone to come in at a project manager strategic level to sort of hold the leadership and the weight of the business with you, we're often the first time people have done that. Their business is just getting to that tipping point. Like you said, we're often working with people who are coming up on 1 million, or kind of going through the growth of like 850,000 to 1.5 mil or so. That's a really hard transition to make. So that's often when you do need to start thinking in terms of having a small leadership team, delegating more effectively, really freeing up your energy. So to your question about vision, which we talk a lot about, my team and I, because in our role, our job is to ask really good questions to understand the vision. So what we talked about before with entrepreneurship, we're all making it up as we go. Oftentimes we've got these buzzwords that might mean one thing to you and a different thing to me. So when somebody tells me, I want to make more money from consulting, that could mean so many things. So for me to know enough about what you mean by that and ask all the right questions to draw that out, like in reality, what does that look like if we've succeeded with that, and really defining done, I can be so much more effective in driving the initiatives to bring that to life. And I think that's really critical, and that requires a lot of listening, requires a lot of patience as people are kind of sorting through the ideas of what they should do or what they want to do, or, why do I want to do that? Or I see so-and-so being successful. Maybe I want that too, but is it just a success? So, there's some patience and listening and sort of holding space for visionaries as they go through that exploration, and then being able to ask, to get specific, to challenge and say, that sounds nice in theory, tease out for me, what do you really want from that? What's important about that to you? And then I'll say kind of the more tangible thing that we do is create a quarterly cadence with the business. So if you're familiar with EOS and the entrepreneurial operating system, we do a similar kind of approach where we are encouraging folks to set 90-day goals and create a sprint where you and your team can stay really focused to achieve some real goals and some real progress. Because if you're in the ups and downs of the day-to-day of the business, it's very easy to feel like nothing's really getting done or things don't get across the finish line. So that's another way that we can kind of hold the long-term vision, but also make sure that day-to-day activity is aligned with keeping us on track for that long-term.
Absolutely. And I mean, of all these people you've helped, all these speakers you've helped, when you think back across all the people you've helped, is there a speaker or a business or a person? Is there a story that really comes to mind of someone or a speaker or a business that you really saw a transformation in as a result of your help and guidance? Is there one that stays there?
Yeah. Oh, your audio cut out a little bit. Can you still hear me okay?
Camera cut out there for a second. What's going on?
Oh, there we go. Okay, now I can hear you. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, we got it. Okay, we're all good. Excellent. So
yeah, I was just asking, is there a story? Again, I know that's a bit of a loaded question. If there's a story that stands out.
it's not a loaded question. I like it. I think because I think that systems and operations doesn't really matter unless you see the ROI and like any of our investment, right? And I think like I mentioned before, that the biggest success for me is when my clients can step away from their business and that they can see the back end of their business running autonomously. And then they are now putting energy towards the book that they want to write and the being able to just be present at speaking events. They can kind of disappear for 3 days and just trust that things are going to run smoothly. And they also don't have that feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm going to be unplugging, so I have to work my tail off and exhaust myself, and then I'll be out for 3 days and I got to get back and catch up. That is not vacation either. That's not really time away either. So to answer your question, I'm thinking of a client right now that when she came to us, she is a very successful consulting firm, and she works in healthcare and was feeling just about ready to close her doors. She was having some health concerns as a result of stress and was not sleeping at night and was, had an excellent team, but it was feeling like there wasn't the progress that they wanted. And it was just too much. It was too much to juggle. He was too involved with all the clients. And just a couple of days ago, we had a call and she said something to the effect of like, because of the business manager that we brought in to support her and take some of that load off of her plate, not only is she not having any direct reports anymore, her team is now directly responding to, being supervised by our team member at a manager level. Mm-hmm. And it's been learning. She's having to learn how to sort of let go of those relationships, but it is creating so much more space for her to be present in her life. She took off time for the first time in years working with us and was able to take a week off because she just needed to for her spirit, her health. And then the conversation we had a couple of days ago was essentially that because of the way we've turned a corner with her business and putting systems in place and supporting the team and taking some of that off of her, she is feeling more confident about keeping the business going and not shutting the doors and sort of continuing her vision, continuing to build her legacy. And furthermore, be able to continue supporting the clients that she loves and keep her mission going to improve the healthcare system in the ways that she her brilliance and her gifts. So that was really special to feel like we not only improved the situation, but in some ways we have kind of given her hope in her business to continue something that otherwise might have not continued at all without our support. That was powerful.
Absolutely. Well, not just giving her hope, giving her health as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible. So let me ask, what advice, if there was a professional speaker listening, what advice would you give a professional speaker that is looking to streamline their day-to-day operations?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it is, I think one of the biggest questions I'm answering when I work with folks is, what's the right timing? How do I know when I'm ready to invest in operations, or how do I, with any component of it, either working with a consulting agency like ours that's going to come in and look at your whole big picture, or implementing a new software, or any piece of that operational infrastructure of your business. I think there's a couple things that come to mind. One is just being clear on the phase of business that you're in and sort of being realistic and honest with yourself about that, so that you can be in a healthy financial position, that you're not over leveraging your resources and spending money you don't have, or spending time and energy on the wrong things because you're kind of, running on whatever's in front of you. You're kind of taking the opportunities, getting to some degree, it's kind of getting out of the short-term thinking of it. So there's something there about like, understand the phase of business you're in and the business you're building today, and know that that's going to be different than the business you're building a year from now or 5 years from now. And that's okay. And you kind of need to be where you are to be effective. Sometimes I see people get so lost in the vision that they're working towards that it's almost like they stop living in the reality of right now, because they can't really see the gap between where you're at today and where you want to get. And the more awareness you have of that and the more acceptance you have, the more you can kind of focus on the today and look forward to the future and don't lose sight of that. But that distinction, I think I see people be more effective when they can keep awareness of those things. The other thing is similar and goes back to not getting stuck in short-term thinking, which is kind of creating that, in our case, like creating a good cadence for yourself. So like taking 90 days at a time and saying, I can't do everything I want to do all the time. And I think, often we're so hard on ourselves. There's lots of perfectionism, and I think the entrepreneurship that I see and this feeling that there's so many parts of your business that are not the way you want them to be yet. And I see sometimes people kind of have shame or shut down about the parts of their business that, I know I should have that already, or, I had it and then it got I don't know. It can be so spirally. So the more you can take it in stride and in short-term chunks and say, this is my priority right now, you can more effectively say no to those things that are going to be shiny objects and pull you away from what really matters in making progress in your business. Absolutely.
And that plan, that's kind of an interesting thing you touched on, that, your business today is not what it's going to be. Is there a way to plan for that growth in your operation strategy, or does that just kind of happen naturally as a result of the process?
Oh, I love this question. So you're asking, in terms of that gap where I'm at today and where I want to be, how to think proactively about the way that you're doing operations in your business so that you can be where you're at, but also looking for tomorrow.
That's right. That's my question better stated.
No. I just understand. So I think, one of the things that I'm a proponent of is using free software as long as you can, using free tools, right? Those things add up so quickly. You mentioned AI earlier. I know that it's easy to pull a trigger on an AI tool that you get excited about and often forget about or don't fully implement, so you're not even really leveraging it over time. I see that a lot, that people come to us and say, I've got all kinds of software. I don't know what I need and don't need, what I'm using. And very easy to find yourself in that spot, especially once you get into integrations and this system speaks to this system, and it's so easy to break those integrations. So being mindful of that big picture, I think, is part of what you're speaking to. I think my encouragement, again, would be to keep it as simple and cheap as you possibly can along the way, because it's so easy to introduce new tools and introduce new complexity to your system and to lose the thing that is most important. I've seen people with businesses who are trying to sell $500,000 to $1 million consulting contracts, but their entire marketing system and their sales system is set up for volume, where it's almost like they have a B2C strategy, even though they want to make the B2B sale, So, and they partly did that because of the sexiness of the automation, and it's slick and it's good branding. And it's this and that. And I'm looking at them going, you only need 7 great clients this year to crush it, So I think there's something there about, kind of clarity of vision, I think, is what I'm speaking to. And then being able to force yourself to resist temptation of taking on the new systems, new technology until you are, this is where the financial component comes in. We do a lot of financial analysis to make sure people are going to make healthy choices with the things they're implementing, because you should be able to see that you have the budget and to be able to see the money, it's about understanding the ROI before you take the expense on, right? So there's something there as well about being able to have yourself in enough of a healthy financial position that before you introduce new technology or complexity or hire another person to help with this or that you can see what it's going to take for that person or investment to return an interest on their work, and the time and energy you're going to put into investing in them. I think, to more directly answer your question, though, I do think that continuing to have conversation with other people who are at a similar business size as you, and even if that means asking uncomfortable questions like, how many speaking opportunities do you have right now? We're saying, if you're comfortable, like, how much are you charging for a keynote? Like, I'm still figuring that out myself. And being vulnerable with people who are at a similar business size, you're going to get a lot of really, really valuable information about where you should be and kind of how you can gauge that decision of like, am I ready to invest in this, next chunk? That's probably what I see successful people doing, surrounding themselves by people who are in the same space as them and a little bit higher, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Kara, this has been an absolutely fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been awesome. This has been kind of eye-opening for me a little bit about what actually goes into the speaker role. I didn't realize that there was so much business behind it all.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible.
Thank you for humor. I mean, you've given me a chance to talk about stuff I love. This was really fun for me. So thank you very much.
And if anybody out there listening could use your help, could use the help of Backstage Ops, where can the people find you?
Yeah, so we've got our website is backstageopsops.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm active on there, Kara Barnes. And I think, shoot me a message, and just, even if you don't know if this is, remotely what your business needs right now, I think if you're feeling overwhelmed, especially if you're having a lot of great opportunities coming in and you feel that sense of, it's almost like people wait too long to build the infrastructure until they're already drowning, right? So if you see that coming in your business, especially, reach out and let's have a conversation about that question of like that readiness component. When is the right time for me to partner with someone in this way? I'd love to chat.
Well, Kara, thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. We really loved having you on the show. This has been Partnerships for Profit, presented by Leduc Entertainment. Kara, thank you so much again.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.